When 68-year-old retired librarian Sarah Whitaker decided to take a DNA test as a birthday gift to herself, she never imagined it would unravel a century-old family mystery. Sarah, a proud descendant of Italian immigrants who settled in Boston in the early 1900s, had always been fascinated by her heritage. She grew up surrounded by the aroma of her nonna's homemade pasta sauce and the melodic sounds of Italian being spoken at family gatherings. Sarah's childhood home in Boston's North End was a testament to her family's Italian roots. The walls were adorned with sepia-toned photographs of stern-faced ancestors standing in front of modest homes in what she believed to be the rolling hills of Tuscany. The china cabinet held delicate cups and saucers that her great-grandmother had carefully wrapped in linens and brought across the Atlantic. Even the garden in their small backyard was a miniature replica of an Italian villa garden, complete with a small fountain and carefully pruned herbs. With a detailed family tree tracing back to a small village in Tuscany and a house filled with heirlooms from the old country, Sarah thought she knew everything about her ancestry. That was until a small vial of saliva changed everything. The decision to take the DNA test came after a family reunion where Sarah's cousins had playfully argued about which region of Italy their ancestors had come from. Some insisted on Tuscany, others on Sicily, and a few even claimed Venetian heritage. Sarah, always the peacemaker and fact-checker, thought a DNA test might settle the debate once and for all. 6 weeks after sending her DNA sample, Sarah received an email notification that her results were ready. It was a crisp autumn morning, and Sarah was enjoying her morning espresso, a habit she'd picked up from her father. Excited to confirm her Italian roots and perhaps discover some distant cousins in Italy, she clicked on the report. What she saw made her heart skip a beat. According to the test, Sarah was only 25% Italian. The remaining 75% was a mix of Eastern European, specifically Polish and Ukrainian. "This has to be a mistake," Sarah muttered to herself, staring at her computer screen in disbelief. She immediately called her younger sister Maria and asked her to take the test as well. When Maria's results came back with similar percentages, the sisters knew they had stumbled upon a family secret that had been buried for generations. Determined to uncover the truth, Sarah and Maria began a relentless investigation into their family history. They pored over old documents, letters, and photographs. They interviewed elderly relatives and even hired a professional genealogist. But every lead seemed to reinforce their Italian heritage, deepening the mystery of their DNA results. Sarah's first stop was the Boston Public Library, where she had worked for over 3 decades before retiring. She spent days in the genealogy section, combing through immigration records, census data, and old newspapers. The documents all told the same story. Her great-grandparents, Antonio and Sofia Bianchi, had arrived at Ellis Island in 1920 from Naples, Italy. Maria, meanwhile, reached out to their cousins in Italy. The relatives in the small Tuscan village of Lucignano were bewildered by the sisters' questions. As far as they knew, Antonio and Sofia had always been part of their community before emigrating to America. They sent over baptismal records and old family photos, all pointing to a thoroughly Italian heritage. The professional genealogist they hired, Dr. Emily Chen, was equally puzzled. "I've never seen a case quite like this," she admitted after weeks of research. "All the paper trails lead to Italy, but DNA doesn't lie. There's something we're missing." As weeks turned into months, Sarah and Maria's search became an obsession. They created a detailed timeline of their family's history, pinning it to a large corkboard in Sarah's study. Red strings connected events, photos, and documents, creating a web of information that seemed to lead nowhere. Their investigation took an unexpected turn when Sarah decided to look into the historical context of their great-grandparents' immigration. She began researching the political and social climate of Europe in the early 20th century, hoping to find some clue that might explain the discrepancy. The breakthrough came when Sarah discovered a hidden compartment in an old family chest. The chest, a beautiful piece of craftsmanship with intricate inlays, had been passed down through generations. Sarah had always admired it, but never thought to examine it closely. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon when Sarah, frustrated by another dead end in her research, began absent-mindedly tracing the patterns on the chest. Her finger caught on a small, almost imperceptible latch. With a soft click, a hidden drawer sprang open. Inside was a stack of letters written in Polish, dated 1920. The yellowed pages were fragile, the ink faded, but still legible. Sarah's hands trembled as she carefully unfolded the first letter. Unable to read Polish, she immediately called Dr. Chen, who recommended a translator specializing in early 20th century Eastern European languages. With the help of the translator, Sarah learned the shocking truth. Her grandmother, Sophia, whom she had always known as Sophia, was not Italian at all. Sophia was born in Warsaw in 1902, the youngest daughter of a prominent Jewish family. Her father, Jakub Nowak, was a successful merchant, and her mother, Esther, was known for her charitable work in the community. Sophia grew up in a world of cultural richness, surrounded by books, music, and intellectual discourse. But this world was shattered by the outbreak of World War I. The letters revealed a harrowing tale of survival. In 1915, as the German army advanced on Warsaw, the Nowak family fled eastward. They joined the stream of refugees, enduring hunger, disease, and the constant threat of violence. For 3 years, they moved from place to place, staying with relatives or in refugee camps. Sophia's letters spoke of the hardships they faced, but also of the kindness of strangers and the resilience of the human spirit. She wrote of learning to forage for food, of helping her mother care for the sick in overcrowded camps, and of the long nights spent huddled together, listening to the distant sound of artillery. In 1918, with the war finally over, the Nowak family found themselves in Italy. They had been part of a group of refugees evacuated by the Italian Red Cross. It was in a refugee camp near Naples that Sophia met Antonio Bianchi, a young Italian volunteer. The letters painted a picture of a whirlwind romance. Antonio, charmed by Sophia's intelligence and strength, began teaching her Italian. Sophia, in turn, shared with him the rich culture of her homeland. Their love blossomed against the backdrop of post-war uncertainty. When Antonio's family decided to immigrate to America, Sophia made the difficult decision to leave her past behind and start a new life with him. The last letter in the stack was addressed to her parents, explaining her choice and asking for their blessing. To avoid discrimination and ease their assimilation in Boston's tight-knit Italian community, Sophia changed her name to Sophia and adopted Antonio's culture as her own. She learned to cook Italian food, speak the language fluently, and never spoke of her Polish roots, not even to her children. As Sarah and Maria delved deeper, they discovered that their grandfather, Antonio, had known Sophia's true identity, but had kept her secret out of love and respect for her wishes. The couple had taken this secret to their graves, leaving their descendants to believe in a heritage that was only partially theirs. The revelation sent shockwaves through the extended Whitaker family. Sarah and Maria called an emergency family meeting, gathering siblings, cousins, and their children in the old family home in North End. As Sarah stood before her assembled relatives, the weight of history heavy on her shoulders, she struggled to find the right words. "Our family story," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "is not quite what we've always believed." The reactions were as varied as they were intense. Some family members sat in stunned silence, while others peppered Sarah with questions. Uncle Frank, always quick to anger, stormed out of the room muttering about family honor and lies. Cousin Gina, a history teacher, was fascinated by the historical implications. "Do you realize what this means?" she asked excitedly. "Our family's story is a microcosm of early 20th century European history. War, displacement, immigration. We're living proof of how these forces shaped individual lives." For the younger generation, the news was met with a mix of excitement and confusion. Sarah's nephew, Michael, a college student, saw it as an opportunity. "This is so cool," he exclaimed. "I can't wait to tell my friends I'm part Polish and Ukrainian. It's like I've gained a whole new identity overnight." But for others, particularly the older members of the family, the revelation was deeply unsettling. Aunt Rosa, in her 80s, and the family's self-appointed keeper of traditions, was inconsolable. "What about all our Italian customs?" she wailed. "Are you saying they mean nothing now?" Sarah tried to reassure her. "Our traditions are still ours, Aunt Rosa. They're part of who we are, regardless of where they came from. If anything, this makes them even more special. They're a testament to Nonna Sofia's strength and ability to adapt." As the initial shock wore off, the family began to grapple with the practical implications of their newfound heritage. There were heated debates about whether to continue celebrating Italian holidays or to incorporate Polish and Ukrainian traditions. The annual family reunion, usually a celebration of all things Italian, became a point of contention. Some family members embraced their newly discovered roots with enthusiasm, eager to explore this hidden part of their identity. Sarah's cousin Anthony, always the family comedian, showed up to the next gathering in a traditional Polish folk costume, complete with a feathered hat. "What?" he said, grinning at the bemused looks. "I'm just getting in touch with my roots." Others felt betrayed, struggling to reconcile their lifelong Italian identity with this new information. Uncle Frank, who had initially stormed out of the family meeting, refused to acknowledge the Polish and Ukrainian heritage for months. It wasn't until his granddaughter was born that he began to soften, realizing that the family's history, complex as it was a legacy he wanted to pass on. For Sarah, the discovery was bittersweet. She mourned the loss of the simple narrative she had always believed about her family, but was also excited by the richness and complexity of her true heritage. She began learning Polish, researching Ukrainian traditions, and even planned a trip to Warsaw to visit the neighborhood where her grandmother had grown up. Sarah's journey took her first to Naples, where she visited the sites of former refugee camps. Standing on the shores where her grandmother had first set foot in Italy, Sarah felt a profound connection to Sofia's journey. She could almost imagine the young woman, displaced and uncertain, finding hope in a new love and a new beginning. From Naples, Sarah traveled to Warsaw. The city, rebuilt after the devastation of World War II, bore little resemblance to the Warsaw of Sofia's youth. Yet as Sarah walked the streets of the old Jewish quarter, she felt echoes of her grandmother's presence. With the help of local historians, Sarah was able to locate the site where the Nowak family home had once stood. The original building had been destroyed during the war, replaced by a modern apartment block. But in a small museum nearby, Sarah found photographs of the street as it had been in the early 1900s. One photo, in particular, caught her eye. It showed a group of children playing in the street, and in the background, barely visible, was a young girl who bore a striking resemblance to Sarah's childhood photos of Sofia. Sarah felt a lump in her throat as she gazed at the image, this tangible link to her grandmother's hidden past. The story of Sofia and Antonio's love, and the lengths they went to for a fresh start, became a source of pride for Sarah. She saw in their actions the courage and resilience that had allowed her family to thrive in America. As news of the Whittaker family's discovery spread, they were contacted by a historian studying the experiences of Eastern European refugees in early 20th century Italy. Dr. Alessandra Rossi, a professor at the University of Rome, had been researching the lesser-known refugee camps in Italy following World War I. "Your grandmother's story is incredibly valuable," Dr. Rossi explained to Sarah over a video call. "We have very few first-hand accounts of the Jewish refugee experience in Italy during this period. Sophia's letters could fill a significant gap in our understanding." Sarah and Maria's story became part of a broader narrative about identity, assimilation, and the complex tapestry of American immigration. Dr. Rossi invited Sarah to contribute to a book she was writing on the subject, ensuring that Sophia's story would be preserved for future generations. The Whitaker family's experience also caught the attention of genetic genealogists studying the impact of DNA testing on family histories. Dr. James Wong, a researcher at Stanford University, included their case in a study on the psychological effects of unexpected ancestry results. "The Whitaker family's journey is fascinating," Dr. Wong commented. "It highlights the complex interplay between genetic heritage and cultural identity. Their story raises important questions about how we define ourselves and our communities in an age where DNA testing can reveal hidden truths about our past." The sisters also connected with distant relatives in Poland and Ukraine, forging new relationships and bridging a gap that had existed for nearly a century. Through genealogical databases and social media, they found cousins they never knew existed. Magda Nowak, a great-granddaughter of Sophia's brother, was the first to reach out. "I can't believe we're related," she wrote in an excited email. "Our family always wondered what had happened to Great-Aunt Sophia. It's like a piece of our history has been returned to us." Sarah and Maria organized a family reunion in Warsaw, bringing together relatives from America, Poland, and Ukraine. It was the emotional gathering, filled with tears, laughter, and countless stories shared in a mix of English, Italian, Polish, and Ukrainian. For the first time, Sarah heard stories about her great-grandparents from people who had actually known them. She learned that her great-grandfather Jakub had been known for his terrible jokes, just like her father. Her great-grandmother Esther's recipes, thought lost to time, had been preserved by Polish cousins and were remarkably similar to dishes Sarah had grown up eating, though with an Italian twist. Family gatherings now featured a mix of Italian pasta and Polish pierogi, a testament to the family's diverse heritage. The Whitaker home in Boston's North End, once a shrine to Italian culture, began to reflect the family's broader heritage. Photos of Warsaw and Kyiv joined the images of Italian villages on the walls. Books in Polish and Ukrainian filled the shelves alongside Italian classics. Sarah's innocent DNA test had not only solved a family mystery, but it also opened up a new chapter in the Whitaker family history. It served as a powerful reminder that identity is not always as straightforward as it seems, and that the truth, no matter how long buried, has a way of emerging. As the years passed, Sarah became the family's unofficial historian. She meticulously documented their journey of discovery, collecting stories, photographs, and documents from both sides of the family. She began writing a book, part family history, part historical narrative, weaving together the threads of their complex heritage. The process of writing brought Sarah closer to her grandmother than she had ever been in life. As she pored over Sophia's letters and pieced together her journey, Sarah gained a deep appreciation for the difficult choices her grandmother had made. "Sophia lived through extraordinary times," Sarah wrote in the introduction to her book. She experienced war, displacement, and the challenge of forging a new identity in a foreign land. Her decision to hide her past was born out of a desire to protect her children and give them a chance at a better life. While we may wish she had shared her true history with us, we cannot judge her choices without understanding the context in which she made them. The book, titled The Echo of Ancestry, A Family's Journey Across Borders and Identities, was published to critical acclaim, It resonated not only with descendants of immigrants, but with anyone who had ever grappled with questions of identity and belonging. Sarah became a sought-after speaker at genealogical conferences and university symposiums. She used her platform to advocate for a more nuanced understanding of immigration and identity. Our ancestors' stories are rarely as simple as we believe them to be, she often said in her talks. Behind every family tree are countless untold stories of struggle, resilience, and reinvention. It's our responsibility to uncover these stories, to understand them in their historical context, and to pass them on to future generations. The Whitaker family's story also had a wider impact on their community. In Boston's North End, once a predominantly Italian-American neighborhood. The Whitaker family's story also had a wider impact on their community. In Boston's North End, once a predominantly Italian-American neighborhood, the Whitakers' discovery sparked conversations about the complex histories that lay behind many families' immigration stories. Sarah organized a series of community events called Hidden Histories, where families were encouraged to share their own stories of immigration, assimilation, and identity. These gatherings revealed a tapestry of experiences far more diverse than many had imagined. Families of Irish descent discovered long-hidden Jewish ancestors, while others uncovered Native American heritage that had been suppressed for generations. The local community center began offering genealogy workshops and DNA testing support groups, helping residents navigate the sometimes turbulent waters of unexpected ancestry discoveries. Sarah often volunteered at these events, sharing her family's story and offering guidance to those just beginning their journeys of discovery. As Sarah and Maria grew older, they realized the importance of passing their family's complex legacy to the younger generation. They organized annual heritage camps for their grandchildren and great-nieces and nephews, where the kids could learn about all aspects of their ancestry. During these camps, children learned to make both pizza and pierogi, practiced basic phrases in Italian, Polish, and Ukrainian, and engaged in storytelling sessions where they heard tales of their ancestors' bravery and resilience. The camps became a beloved family tradition, eagerly anticipated by young and old alike. Sarah's granddaughter, Sophia, named after her great-great-grandmother, took a particular interest in the family history. At 16, she announced her intention to make a documentary about the family's journey. "I want to tell Grandma Sophia's story," she explained to Sarah. "Not just what happened, but why she made the choices she did. I think it's important for people to understand the pressures immigrants faced and still face to assimilate." With Sarah's guidance, young Sophia spent a year interviewing family members, historians, and experts on immigration. She traveled to Poland, Ukraine, and Italy, retracing her ancestors' steps. The resulting documentary, The Secret She Carried, premiered at a small film festival and was later picked up by a streaming service, bringing the Whitaker family's story to a global audience. As Sarah approached her 80th birthday, she received an unexpected email. It was from a historian in Ukraine who had been researching families displaced during World War I. He had come across records of the Nowak family and, through a series of connections, had found Sarah's book. The historian had made a remarkable discovery. Sophia's parents, after years of searching for their daughter, had left a sealed letter with a lawyer in Warsaw. The letter, addressed to Sophia or her descendants, had remained unopened for nearly a century. With trembling hands, Sarah opened the scanned copy of the letter attached to the email. As she read, tears streamed down her face. The letter was filled with love, understanding, and forgiveness. Sophia's parents expressed their hope that she had found happiness in her new life, and their deep desire for her to know that she was always loved and missed. The letter also contained a family heirloom, a small gold locket containing photos of Sophia's parents. The historian had located the law firm's successor and was in the process of retrieving the physical letter and locket for Sarah. This final piece of the puzzle brought a sense of closure to Sarah and the entire Whitaker family. It felt as if Sophia herself had reached across time to embrace them, validating their journey of discovery and connecting them irrevocably to their roots. On her 80th birthday, surrounded by 4 generations of her family, Sarah reflected on the incredible journey that a simple DNA test had sparked. The gathering was a vibrant celebration of their multifaceted heritage. Italian opera played in the background while children danced to Ukrainian folk songs. The dining table groaned under the weight of a feast that included pasta alla norma, Polish kielbasa, and Ukrainian borscht. As Sarah looked around at her family, the physical embodiments of the blending of cultures and histories, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. She saw in their faces echoes of Antonio and Sophia, of the Bianchis and the Nowaks, and of all the unnamed ancestors whose choices and sacrifices had led to this moment. Our identity, Sarah said in a toast, raising a glass that contained both Italian wine and Ukrainian horilka, is not a single unbroken line stretching into the past. It's a tapestry, woven from many threads. Some threads are vibrant and obvious, while others are hidden, only revealed when we look closely. But each thread, each story, each choice made by those who came before us has contributed to who we are today. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room, taking in the faces of her loved ones. We are Italian and Polish and Ukrainian. We are Jewish and Catholic. We are immigrants and natives. We are Americans, but most importantly, we are family. And our strength lies not in the purity of our bloodline, but in the richness of our shared history and the love that binds us together. As the family cheered and clinked glasses, Sarah felt a sense of peace wash over her. The journey that began with a vial of saliva had led her to a deeper understanding, not just of her family, but of the very nature of identity itself. She had learned that heritage is not a fixed point, but a living, breathing thing, constantly evolving as it's passed from one generation to the next. And as she looked at young Sophia, her namesake and the keeper of the family's stories for the next generation, Sarah knew that their family's journey of discovery was far from over. It would continue to unfold, revealing new surprises and insights for generations to come. In that moment, Sarah understood that the greatest legacy she could leave was not the certainty of a single, unchanging identity, but the tools and the courage to continually explore, question, and embrace the beautiful complexity of who they were and where they came from. As the celebration continued around her, Sarah whispered a quiet thank you to her grandmother Sophia, whose brave choices and silent sacrifices had set in motion this extraordinary journey. And in the joyous chaos of the party, in the blending of languages and traditions, Sarah could almost hear an echo of her grandmother's voice, carried across time, saying, "This is exactly what I hoped for you all." The DNA test that had once shaken the foundations of their family identity had, in the end, built something far stronger. A family bound not by the simplicity of a single origin story, but by the rich, complex tapestry of their shared human experience. And in homes across Boston's North End, in Warsaw, in Kyiv, and in the small Tuscan village of Lucignano, the ripples of Sarah's discovery continued to spread, inspiring others to look deeper into their own histories, to embrace the unexpected turns in their family stories, and to celebrate the beautiful, messy complexity of human identity.